Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Sean Shirk to defeat BJ Penn. And I'm here to talk about Kyle Nelson versus Blake Bilder. Blake Bilder is making his return to the UFC after a very successful debut against Shane Young. That's a fight in which I believe the odds were even. And I really liked what I saw from Blake Bilder and still do on his, throughout his regional career. But I picked him to lose that fight. I picked Shane Young to win because of UFC levels and all that horse shit. And wrong bet. Blake Bilder is a very good fighter. And even though you could argue Shane Young is very low level inside the UFC, he's still a guy that's been around. And I really like what I saw from Blake in that fight. He is a CFFC champion. He's got 5 finishes and his 8 victories and 3 decisions, obviously. 1 knockout and 4 submissions for Blake Bilder. He's also 7-0 as an amateur. He's a crafty guy on the ground. He hit that Lytle triangle Kimura, the move, the Chris Lytle. He's got a beautiful second round comeback triangle over this guy Frank Buenafuente. Showed a lot of heart in that fight. And got a third round KO right before coming to the UFC or the Contender Series over this guy Reginaldo Carvalho. And that's a guy who has since beaten Alex Gilpin from the PFL and someone else. Oh, Solo Hadley. So, he's still climbing. And Blake Bilder got him out of there in the third round with a KO as well. A high-profile fight as far as his regional career goes, higher stakes. And that's the one time he got his KO in round 3 of that fight, championship fight. So, really cool for that to happen. I do trust him overall as a fighter, Blake. I trust him as a wrestler, as a submission grappler, and as a striker. Kyle Nelson, he's pretty well-rounded as far as his record goes, but I think his primary path to victory in most fights is on the feet. Kyle Nelson does have power. He's still limited, though. He's hasn't looked great in some of his losses. Let that Jai Herbert fight kind of slip away, in my opinion. I didn't think that was a great loss. Same with this 5-round loss to this Albanian guy. Not that, it was a bad look or anything. He took his ass kicking and stood tall for 5 rounds. Showed a lot of toughness, but he's not the grittiest guy, if I'm being honest, Kyle Nelson. And that could just be he doesn't have the energy or the cardio to make shit happen. I think you need cardio to have grit. But, still, he's a guy that's been able to survive. He had that draw in his last fight against Doo Ho Choi, which, whatever, take away the point deduction, and he lost that fight. He was taken out by TKO twice in his 5 losses. Once to Billy Quarantillo, round 3. That's Billy Quarantillo's thing. And then Carlos Diego Ferreira got him out in round 2. That was on the ground. But those are 2 deadly guys. And his 1 submission loss comes, again, round 3 to Matt Sales. It looked like Nelson was going to take over in the middle of the fight, but then Matt Sales took over. I don't trust his cardio, Kyle Nelson. And now that he's only getting older, even though he's still 32 and the same age as Blake Bilder, he's got twice the mileage, and, he hasn't looked great down the stretch. And with low output in other situations, that points to cardio problems as well. Blake Bilder, I don't think he's got cardio problems. I think he's still got to prove himself at the UFC level. I mean, like I said, he looked good against Shane Young, but he's got to fight a little more before I could say, oh, this guy's a third-round beast. But on the regional scene, he showed everything. Toughness, BJJ, he showed, again, that 1 knockout he got was in a championship fight. He's shown to have a lot of grit as well, and I really trust his cardio. So I'm picking Blake Bilder to win. I think Blake Bilder would win the decision. I think the first submission would go to Blake Bilder easily. And the first knockout, I'd pick Blake Bilder, even though it wouldn't be a conventional chin versus power thing. I think it would be more down the stretch, second, probably third round. But I really trust Blake Bilder. And I'm not touching anything about Kyle Nelson in this fight. So Blake Bilder's the pick. I don't love his money line at minus 245, so I've stayed away from this pretty much. Minus 150 is the under 2.5 rounds. I can't trust that he's going to put away Kyle Nelson. Blake Bilder's a guy who's comfortable fighting deep, and I think It wouldn't surprise me if he won a decision. Decision is plus 250, but again, staying away from that as well. So Blake Bilder is the pick. If I had a gun to my head, I'd say round 3 finish. And by the way, you can get that at plus 600 flat, TKO or submission. But again, I didn't bet on that. Round 3 has to be longer odds for me to sprinkle money on it. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.